In the heady days of the 1920s, the American economy was booming, but it wasn't a sustainable environment. It all came to a head in October 1929 when the New York Stock Exchange crashed. This led to banks collapsing, businesses closing, and unemployment soaring to 25%. As the largest economy in the world, these stresses plunged the entire globe into the Great Depression, which would last for the next decade. In November 1932, Franklin Delano Roosevelt was elected President of the United States. During his inaugural speech in March of 1933, he uttered those famous words,
"That the only thing we have to fear is fear itself."
Starting just days after his inauguration, Roosevelt spoke directly into the homes of millions of Americans through radio broadcasts. His voice was calm, reassuring, and personal, as if he were sitting in the living room with his listeners. Thanks to these radio broadcasts, he was able to bypass traditional media and political opponents. He explained complex issues in plain language, whether it was the banking crisis, the New Deal, or the threat of war in Europe. These became known as fireside chats and were delivered from the diplomatic reception room in the White House. Interestingly, there was no fireplace in this particular room, so a chimney was installed for those members of the press who would view the addresses in person. We'll learn more about FDR and his use of radio as a tool of his presidency, and about his first nationwide broadcast directed specifically to members of the Boy Scouts of America in this edition of Artifact of the Week. Franklin Delano Roosevelt has been called the best friend the Boy Scouts ever had in the White House. His history with Scouting America begins in 1915 when Chief Scout Executive James E. West asked FDR, then serving as Assistant Secretary of the Navy, to serve on the Special Committee on Nautical Scouting. FDR accepts. In 1921, while visiting a scout camp near Bear Lake, New York, it is generally believed that Roosevelt contracted the polio virus while swimming in the lake at the scout camp. This leaves his legs completely paralyzed. During the time he spent recovering from polio, FDR's involvement in scouting grew, along with his interest in politics. In 1922, he became president of the Greater New York Advisory Council and inaugurated the Franklin D. Roosevelt Conservation Camps for Boy Scouts at the Palisades Interstate Park on the west bank of the Hudson River. As attendance at the camp increased, it became obvious that expansion of the existing property was not possible. Under Roosevelt's leadership, in 1924, the council began to look for property to develop and open a scout camp large enough to meet the demands well into the future. In 1925, the council changed names and became the Boy Scout Foundation of Greater New York Council. The search for the ideal piece of property within 50 miles of New York City was proving very difficult. On October 30th, 1927, 32 parcels of land were purchased and 10 Mile River Scout Camps was born. In 1929, Roosevelt was elected governor of New York, and in August 1930, during a special ceremony held at the camp, FDR was presented with the Silver Buffalo for his service to youth. In 1932, FDR was elected President of the United States, with his inauguration set for March 4, 1933. Once in office, Roosevelt drew on his experiences with scouting and the establishment and development of camps in New York as the blueprint for the Civilian Conservation Corps, which was a signature piece of his New Deal plan to help Americans recover from the Great Depression. On August 23, 1933, FDR was inducted into the Order of the Arrow at 10 Mile River Scout Camps. On February 10, 1934, President Roosevelt gave his first of many annual radio addresses to help celebrate the founding of the Boy Scouts of America. This particular speech also launched a national Boy Scout good turn by calling on Scouts nationwide to help collect clothing and housewares for Americans suffering during the Great Depression. Despite my best efforts to secure a recording of FDR's radio address, I was unable to track down a copy, but I was able to use samples of FDR's voice and AI technology to clone his voice. Here is that reproduction. The images of the words on the screen are from the FDR Library archives.
Fellow Scouts, I am happy to participate in the 24th anniversary celebration of our organization, the Boy Scouts of America. Nearly 1 million of us are mobilized at this time in all parts of the country as a part of the program for this week of celebration. Home and farm patrols and troops of farm boys are joining with their brother scouts in the big cities. In front of the City Hall in San Francisco, and it is 9 o'clock in the morning there, thousands of Scouts join with other thousands in the Hippodrome in New York in carrying on the cause of worldwide brotherhood in Scouting. As most of you know, Scouting has been one of my active interests for many years. I have visited hundreds of troops in their hometowns and in their camps. I know, therefore, from personal experience, the things we do and stand for as Scouts. We have ideals. We are a growing organization. We believe that we are accomplishing fine American results, not only for our own membership, but also for our families, our communities, and our nation. Summed up in one sentence, the aim of Scouting is to build up better citizenship. I believe that we are contributing greatly to that objective. I am especially happy today to extend personal greetings and congratulations to the Scouts and leaders who have earned the President's Award for Progress in the year 1933 as a part of the 10-year program. It is appropriate that we are planning for a celebration of our Silver Jubilee, the 25th anniversary of the Boy Scouts of America, which will culminate in a great national jamboree here in the nation's capital in the summer of 1935. Of course, it would be physically impossible for us to have the whole membership of the Boy Scouts of America, 1 million strong, come to Washington at one time. But I much hope that it will be possible to have every nook and cranny of our nation represented. As a preliminary to our Silver Jubilee, and in line with the emphasis of service for others which we have always stressed, I suggest to you that it is time once more for us to do a national good turn. As many of you know, we are doing everything possible in this emergency to help suffering humanity. I called upon the Federal Emergency Relief Administrator, Mr. Harry L. Hopkins, to tell me what kind of national good turn would be of the greatest service. He has recommended that during the balance of the month of February, every troop and every scout do everything possible in their separate localities to collect such household furnishings, bedding, and clothes as people may be able to share as gifts to those who greatly need them. Therefore, I ask you, under the direction of your own local officers and in conference with the representatives of the Federal Relief Administration and other local social agencies, to gather up such of this material as may be available for distribution. I am confident that the American people will generously cooperate and respond. Indeed, I am hoping that in many cases they will telephone or send letters to the local Scout offices to offer their help to carry through this national good turn. I have already received offers of cooperation from governors of states, from mayors and other community leaders. May you carry out this new service and rededicate yourselves to the Scout oath. I ask you to join with me and the Eagle Scouts and our President and Chief Scout Executive who are here with me in the White House in giving again the Scout oath. All stand, give the Scout sign, repeat with me the Scout oath. On my honor, I will do my best to do my duty to God and my country, and to obey the Scout law, to help other people at all times, to keep myself physically strong, mentally awake, and morally straight.
In the collection of the National Scouting Museum, we have this commemorative booklet of the radio address, which includes not only the text of FDR's speech, but also the comments of BSA President Walter W. Head and Chief Scout Executive James E. West. This excerpt from Mr. Head's speech is read by an AI-generated voice.
Fellow Scouts and Scouters, you have heard the challenge of our President, and I know that you, one and all, join with me in thanking him for his message. Here is our big chance to show him that his faith in Scouts and Scouting is justified. I know that you boys and young men of America can carry on and meet this national need in the same splendid way that other Boy Scouts have done. Not many of you know, for instance, about the record that Scouts made during the war. Did you know that in the 5 Liberty Loans, Scouts, boys, and young men like yourselves secured altogether some 328,308 subscriptions, amounting to $352,122,975. That meant that each boy sold $880 worth of bonds. Think of it. I am not going into details about the 20,758,660 board feet of standing walnut they located, nor the 100 carloads of fruit pits they collected for gas masks, nor the many other services they rendered, although it is a thrilling story. And now you have a chance to carry on the traditions that other Scouts have helped to make. The need is great. Our President has called upon you for service. What a wonderful opportunity there is for every one of us, man and boy, to take part in this national good turn. The nation expects more of Scouts than it does of other boys. They are trained. They are resourceful. They stand up for the right. I am not saying that this is an easy job that our President has requested of us, but I do believe that the Boy Scouts of America are not going to fail him. I do believe that you are going to respond in the same way that Scouts always have responded when their help was requested. Each of you in your own community has no doubt taken part already in many forms of worthwhile civic service. Make this the biggest and most worthwhile thing yet.
This excerpt from James E. West's remarks was generated through the cloning of Dr. West's voice, much like the FDR sample.
Hello, Scouts. To me has been assigned the responsibility of presenting recommendations and instructions for making effective the request from the President of the United States. This national good turn is to be a great adventure in Scouting. For this reason, it is important that plans for each community be such as to give each Scout and Scouter, each patrol and troop, as well as each local council, definite opportunity for participation. Ample time has been provided to make it possible for each local council to develop its own plans in its own way for this service to help suffering humanity. We have fully 18 days within which to do the job. As stated by the President, the selection of the pipe of the nationwide service has been upon the recommendation of the Honorable Harry L. Hopkins, Federal Emergency Relief Administrator, in conference with representatives of the Boy Scouts of America. As Mr. Hopkins explained, in all sections of the country, there are thousands of families in great distress because of the economic situation during the past years. Such emergency relief as has been made possible thus far has been necessarily, primarily, to provide food and shelter. In many instances, families are seeking to reestablish themselves in homes. They need the bare necessities of one, household furnishings of all kinds, that is, chairs, tables, bedroom furniture of all character, dishes, buckets, cooking utensils, brooms, etc. 2, bedding of all character, that is, mattresses, pillows, sheets, pillowcases, blankets, quilts, etc. 3, clothing for men, women, and children, that is, underwear, stockings, sweaters, overcoats, shoes, and other wearing apparel. I am confident that there is in each local council the resources in leadership which will make possible the development and execution of such plans as may be necessary for this big undertaking in a way that will effectively meet the request from the President of the United States and give to each of our Stouts and Scouters an opportunity to do something worthwhile in response to their obligation as Stouts to be helpful to others at all times. Further, I am fully convinced, based upon past experience, that when the records have been sent to the national office for presentation to the President of the United States and the American people, it will reveal a service of tremendous proportions and very much worthwhile, and fully justify the high esteem which scouting has throughout the nation during the last 24 years.
The original time for the speech appears in FDR's stenographer's schedule as simply Boy Scouts at 12 noon. While it isn't recorded exactly when he arrived at the cabinet room, Roosevelt was known to arrive 15 to 30 minutes early so he could talk to those in attendance for the live broadcast. This was a practice he began a year earlier when he held his first fireside chat in March of 1933. For this speech, in addition to Head and West, there were 25 Eagle Scouts present. It should also be noted that FDR wore his silver buffalo during the event. Despite guiding the country through the Great Depression and World War II, over the next decade, FDR would communicate directly with his fellow Scouts and Scouters via an annual BSA birthday radio address. His speeches to the Scouts focused on the values of service, citizenship, and unity. FDR praised their dedication to community and country. He reminded them that the Scout oath and law weren't just words, but a guide to living responsibly in a democracy. His speeches called on Scouts to serve in any way they could, through conservation projects, war bond drives, and the collection of materials for the war effort. FDR believed every Scout wasn't just building their own future, they were helping carry America forward. FDR resigned as the president of the Greater New York's Council in 1938. He remains the only U.S. president to be inducted into the Order of the Arrow while serving as president. Look for more presentations on the speeches of FDR to the Boy Scouts of America sometime in the future. Well, that's all the time we have for this week. Join us next time as we continue to learn more about the history of Scouting America through the collection of the National Scouting Museum and Artifact of the Week.